Yo, I'm Ryan Beaumont and I run an 8-figure development and construction business. In this video, I'm going to talk all things construction and how you can avoid making huge mistakes, losing loads of money, to picking the right contractor, running the right process, and looking after your interests. So stay tuned and subscribe. So we as a business specialize in HMOs and commercial to residential conversions. So this video is geared around small projects, not huge massive projects where contracts go to a whole different sort of level and you need to run a whole different kind of pre-construction process and things like that. So ignore those. We're looking at HMOs and commercial to residential conversions. So we'll start with finding a contractor. So there's many ways you can find a contractor. That you can literally find them pretty much anywhere as long as you've got a good network. But ways you can do it if you're starting out are online platforms. This is things like Google, mybuilder.com, or even Indeed.com. There's many of them out there, so you can just go on Google, or ChatGPT, ask ChatGPT to point you in the right directions as well. So there's loads of ways to find contractors online. But of course, when you're finding a cold lead of a contractor through some online platform, there's then quite a lot of a process you have to go through to make sure you're vetting them and ensuring that you're in good hands. So the best thing you can do ideally is get a referral or find someone in such a way where you have confidence from the start that they can deliver that kind of project. So we'll go through that stuff, but online platforms initially, you'll be able to find a lot of contractors. And then drive around your local area as well. Because when you drive around your local area, you'll see scaffolding up, you'll see construction boards and hoarding and things like that. And you can just go knock on the door and just see, you know, is the site manager around? Is there a foreman around? Can I get your boss's number or whatever? Speak to one of the lads and just say, look, we're looking to do a HMO in the area and see what you guys are up to. And do you specialize in HMOs? Have some conversation, ask some questions. They might go, oh, we've never done HMOs, but there's a guy around here called fucking Phil. Phil does loads of HMO. You're so quickly, just by speaking to people in that trade, in that area, they all know loads of people. Everyone knows everyone. So driving around and just knocking on doors and asking people, not any door, obviously, if it's a construction site, is a great way to find contractors. And generally, there'll be active contractors. And whilst you're there, you can see the quality of their work. So that is a great way to do things. And speak to local developers as well. So you may go to a construction site and there may be a developer on site. You could ask for the developer's name and their contact details. And you could then network with them, ask them out for a coffee. You pay for the coffee, so it's free coffee for them. And then you can ask them a whole load of things from the contractor, the process, the who should I not use, because there might be some bad contractors in the area and you want to avoid them. And then you could also ask them about managing agents and other kinds of stuff as well. So great to network with local developers, but obviously they will be some of the first guys that you want to ask for contractor referrals, because you may meet a contractor, but the contractor's not going to tell you how bad they are, but a developer will be honest and transparent about how good or bad the contractor is. So local developers definitely, and obviously there's Facebook forums, Instagram, all kinds of stuff where you can find other developers as well. And then speak to agents. So this is selling agents and managing agents, because they're both very active in the property space and they'll know a litany of contacts who will know contractors. So, but make sure they're local agents, because they're usually embedded in the local network. If you go and speak to like a Foxtons, a Savills or whoever, they may not know as much, but that local high street agent, every town's got one where they're, you know, family, born and bred, and they've grown this business over 10 years and they usually just have heard all the stories and they know all the right people to go to. So speaking to agents is good. And then there's architects as well. Local architects is one way of doing it. Just go to the architectural firm or call them up and just say what you're doing, and obviously they'll be happy to help you because you might then employ them on the job itself. So architects is a good way. If you want to find specific architects, then you can go to the local planning portal and you'll find architects that way, because on the local planning portal you'll see planning applications for HMOs or commercial to residential schemes and things like that, and really you have a long list of architects who are active in that area, and then you create that list and then call them all up and ask them who the contractors are. And again, you can work with the architect as well, schmooze them up a little bit to say what your plans are in that area, then they'll look out for you because they'll want the work, and then they'll also point in the right direction of contractors, put up that list, and you can go see the contractors. So finding contractors, there's so many ways to do it, you have no excuse. You'll be able to find contractors all day long in your local area. But the trick is tendering, because you then need to vet how good the contractor is. You can't really do that without seeing them perform a tendering exercise. So, but to do that, you need to give them all the right information. So obviously you do things like visiting their sites and all that other kind of stuff as well, and making sure they're good for the work that they're saying they can do. But when it comes to tendering the site, you then want to give them all the right information. Because here's the thing that a lot of developers don't quite realize. Like, they think that, oh, the contractor's literally just given me like fucking, he said it's going to be 50 grand and that's it. It's like a one-line item. And I'm like, all right, well, how much did you give them? Because if you just gave them like a fucking back of the fag packet floor plan and went 6-bed HMO, well, they've not got much to go off. So give them no excuse to give you something that lacks detail, you know? So this is the tendering exercise. You want to give them comprehensive floor plans. So not just a floor plan with like a bed in the room about there, a bedside table about there, and a wardrobe about there. You want to give them comprehensive floor plans showing the exact design, the exact layout with all the regs plans. So that's where all your pipes and your waste is going, where all your electrical plans going, where your fire panel might be going, where your electric sockets might be going, where your extractor's going, everything. You want a full regs plans if you can. Like your architect should be able to do this, and then you can then create setting out plans on top of that. You can just stick it on a PowerPoint and just show them, I want an electrical socket there, right next to the bed, which is like a meter off the wall, which then comes into the full measured plans. You want to give them full measured plans as well, showing them that the bed's going to sit about 1.5 meters off the wall, and then the socket's going to be about 600 mil up the wall or whatever, 150 mil above the kitchen worktop or above the bedside table, whatever it is. You give them all that comprehensive information so that you then have something to hold them accountable for, but they also know exactly what they're pricing. They're worth their salt. They will go through and be really grateful that they've got all this information and knowing that they can then price the scheme. Because as a contractor wants this information, you're not burdening them. You're not burdening them. They want the information. There's nothing more annoying being a contractor and not having the sufficient information from the client, because you're then having to kind of, guess on what certain things are. Yes, you'll have loads of experience as a contractor and you'll know what things cost you in the past and things like that. But I'd much rather price a job knowing exactly what the scope of work is, exactly what they're asking from me, because then I can ensure that I'll price that job and add my margin and a contingency. And I'll know that I can get that scheme done because I've got the full scope of work. So if you don't have that, then you're kind of guessing. And that might mean that I'll lose my margin, etc. So therefore, contractors won't do as good of a job as pricing a scheme if you don't give them all the information. To give them as much information as possible, they will appreciate it if they're a good contractor. A lazy contractor might go, oh, it's a fucking lot to look at. It's going to be 30 grand a room, 20 grand a room. That's the cost. And there'll be old school contractors that will work that way. I would suggest you work with them and make them fluff out that bill. Just because they've not given you something with a lot of detail doesn't mean they're a bad contractor. They might just be busy and they don't need to give you that much information. So there are also those kind of grey areas with contractors where some of them just have good established client relationships and they don't necessarily need to go out fishing for work. So if other work comes to the table, yeah, they might just put in a tender, but they might not be that bothered to go through everything. They don't know you, etc. So you need to work with them. You need to win them over as well. Contractors kind of get abused a bit because they've got a bad rap in the industry. Rightfully so. There's some really bad contractors out there and there's always a lot of money on the line from the client's perspective. But not all contractors should be held with contempt. Like, a lot of them are good people and you need to give them all the right respect and the right information and then work with them, build a rapport with them so that you can then get the right information in return and make informed decisions on your development site. So full building survey as well, that's always going to be appreciated. So you could get a building condition report if you want. By full building survey, what I really mean is a full measured survey, so you're getting the full measure of the building, damp surveys, things like which you can do yourself with a fucking damp meter, assessing, the floor's in good nick, is there timber rot, is there other stuff? Like, look for those visual signs yourself. Yes, you can use a building condition report, but if you've got the survey information for yourself, you can then take a contractor around and get them to identify the issues. And I'll go on to that a little bit later when you then get your contractors after they've tendered whilst they're tendering to come and visit the site, and you can show them those issues, and you'll get, as you show different contractors around the site, you'll see different people's perspective on the remedies for those issues. And that's much more useful for you, and it's free to get feedback on how much it's going to cost and what the likely remedy is to solve that issue on the site, compared to a building condition report, which will just say, now you need a timber rot survey, and now you need this, and that's going to cost you 20 grand. Like, it's not worth it. Is much better to initially get a contractor's eyes on it, because they're the guys who you then employ to actually fix the stuff. So yeah, full building survey, which means surveying the roof as well. Get a drone survey if you can. Any contractor usually will have a drone. We've got 2 drones, so it's usual, because you don't want to get up on the roof and you just want to see, is it in good nick? If you miss a roof survey and you find out later on that you got leaks and you need to repair that roof, that can be another 10, 20 grand that you're looking for from your lender or whoever's financing the scheme. And so you want to know that from the start. From the start, you want to know what condition your roof's in. And then also any areas of concern, like you might see a crack in the wall or subsidence, wobbly floors, a load of damp rising in an area of the building where you can't establish why there's damp there. If that's rising damp, you want to know that. Loads of stuff. There's just a litany of things that could be problems in a property. Just use your eyes, use common sense, identify them, and the building condition report, if you get one of those as well, will identify these things and make sure your contractor sees and is aware of all of those things from outset. If you're watching this and you're an investor who wants to build a property portfolio, then we've designed an end-to-end development service for all of our clients. Over the years, we've brought in-house all the aspects in the project lifecycle, from sourcing and acquisitions to construction and lettings and management on the back end. What this means is we've created the only one-stop shop in the country for a vertically integrated suite of development services. And it means we're one point of contact for all of our clients' needs. Now, access to our services are not going to be open forever, because we only only have so much capacity to deliver the projects. But if you're interested in our service, then click the link on the screen or check the link in the video description and you can book a call in with our investment director. But for now, back to the video. With all of the above, you detail everything in a scope of works. So this is what we produce for all of our clients. We produce a scope of works showing everything that the building will encompass, all the things we're going to tackle, all the things we're going to build, loads and loads of shit. Just imagine all the things that go into a construction project. It's all detailed in a scope of works. So if you detail that out for your contractor can then feed back, and they should also be making sure that they give you a scope of works and their scope of works is nice and clear. And then you sign off a key contract against those scope of works and the floor plans and a specification sheet, which then specifies all the products and all the end finishes that you want in the building. And then there's no room for ambiguity, really, because you've got everything there. You've given them everything. And any good contractor worth their salt will then give you a nice healthy price against that. And you then want an itemized bill showing the different components from first fix to second fix on, electrics and plumbing and joinery. And then you want to see the structural works or groundworks and other things and infrastructure and drainage and flooring and kitchens and all that kind of stuff. You then want to see an itemized bill against that, and you can quantify it because you can see the scope of works, you can see the detailed floor plans, the measure and everything else. So can the contractor. It's as transparent as you can get it without then going to, say, an open book agreement. You don't want to do open book. You just don't want to do that. Not on these kind of deals. Anyway, and then site visits. Make sure you obviously bring your contractor around for a nice clear site visit. And if they need to come back a second, maybe even a third time, then let them come back, accommodate that, because that's great. If someone's showing an interest to go, I need to come back and check this thing, that's not incompetence, that's diligence. That's them wanting to go, oh, do you know what? I checked the first time, but I just want to be double sure on this, so I'm just gonna come back and check again. And then they might find other things that they then want to come back and check again. I'd maybe cap it at 3. If they start coming around again and again, that's probably not a good sign. But if they're coming back 2 or 3 times, that's good, because they're trying to iron out those areas of concern. So yeah, make sure you hold the site visits, walk around with them as well, and understand what it is they're looking for. And then there's actually choosing the contractor. So you kind of do this at the same time. The choosing the contractor and the tendering, you can kind of choose a contractor through a tendering exercise, or you could choose a couple of contractors and then go out to tender. Depends which way around you want to do it. And then, do they have HMO experience? If you're doing a HMO. If you're doing a commercial to resi, then do they have commercial to residential experience, or just experience at that kind of scale of construction sites? But if you're doing HMOs, just make sure they've got HMO experience. And then, which you can do by making sure you visit their previous work, ask their previous clients, make sure they've got proof that they have done HMOs before. A lot of contractors will say it, but have they really done it? Well, you can't know unless you've got the proof. You then want to see an itemized bill of quantity from these contractors, as I mentioned before. You want to see that clearly defined in their bill, which is the bill of quants. And then what's their insurance level as well? Do they have the right and sufficient level of public indemnity insurance and things like that as a contractor? Because if someone dies on the site or anything like that, you want to make sure that they've got the coverage. And then visit their previous work. Really fucking simple way of doing things is just go and look at their previous work. It doesn't get much easier than that, really, to see how good someone is at something, because you can walk in and you don't necessarily need to be good at construction. You can just walk in and go, does this look good? Like, does it look good? Like, are their skirts on nicely? Is the paint and the plastering job good? Like, you'll be able to see if it's a good level of work and if you'd be happy for that level of work in your property as well. And then if you want to make sure that it was done well and done on time, then speak to their client as well for that job. So there's no point in going to visit their site but not speaking to the client. You may as well do both, because then you get the visual experience of what their site was like, and then you get the actual referral from the client themselves who went through that experience of the construction project, and they're likely to be quite honest with you about it. So make sure you do that. And then do not choose a contractor on price. And it sounds silly, but it's the most stupid thing to do. If you get 3 contractors coming in with prices and you literally go, oh, that one's the cheapest, let's go with them. Well, be careful. Be really careful if you choose on price. You always want to choose on competency. And initially, if it's a fresh relationship, you're choosing on perceived competency, because you don't necessarily know how competent they are. You could do your DD, check their previous work, speak to their previous client, etc., their assurance level, check out their team, all that kind of stuff. But so you need to use that as your way to assess how good the contractor is. Price just isn't a good arbiter of how well a construction project will go. Not to mention that there's so many contractors out there who undercut on the quotations to win the work, and then halfway through the job, fucking hell, lads, found an extra 10 grand worth of work, so I've got to add 10 grand to the bill. And then you're paying another 10 grand. And at the end of the job, they go, oh, fuck, yeah, no, we need another 5 grand because remember, you said you wanted this thing, and then we didn't realize how good that thing was. We did tell you this at the start, remember? Remember, we told you it was gonna be another 5, 10 grand. That will always happen if you're not really tight and have a really good relationship with these contractors, and make sure that you wrap them up initially by giving them all the sufficient information. But it can be easy to just pick a contractor on the cheap cheapest price, because you get optimistic and go, oh, if they do it for 70 grand, I mean, I thought it was going to cost 85, so I'm going to save 15 grand, because the other guy's going 86 grand. That's a grand over my quote. But the guy who's going 86 is probably genuine. He's probably genuinely going, there's a fixed price lump sum. I'll stick to that bill because I'm making a good margin on it. And that's what I do. My business needs to make money. Too many people try and screw down contractors. If you screw down a contractor, they'll screw you on the job, and they'll screw you in ways you just don't even know. They might get the job finished, but they might not have done stuff right. They might not have used the best products in the infrastructure, the best things behind the walls and the fixings within the building that you can't see and that you just wouldn't know because you're not a contractor. You don't know how to assess that quality of works. Well, guess what? They cheaped out on the job. They made it look good on the end finish to kind of get past you. Now they fucked off and you'll never see them again. And then you're left with 10 grand's worth of works to remedy that pops up a year or two down the line. So never screw your contractor. Like, you have to build relationship. It is all relationship with contractors. You have to build it up. You have to build trust. You have to be a good payer, which we'll come on to next as well. And over time, that becomes your most powerful resource. A good contractor is your most powerful resource because ultimately they're the guys that build the product. As a developer, if you don't have a good contractor relationship, you have no product. So you have to build up a good relationship. And then also, how big's their team? How big is the contractor's team? You know, if you're dealing with a big construction company, well, they're going to have a lot of preliminary overheads and things like that will price into the job, which means they're going to be inherently more expensive, but likely more competent because they've got the right support in the back office to ensure things stay on program, procurement is done well, etc., etc., etc. So how big's their team? And if their team isn't that big, it doesn't matter. You don't have to be put off by that, but then you want to know how many sites are they on? Because if they're a dad and lad team and that's their back office, maybe one of their misses is doing some of the payroll and things like that in the back office, and then they've got, say, 10 lads out on site and they're already on 3 sites and they're going to add yours to their list of jobs as well. I mean, what's the likelihood of them not only being on site on time, but being able to keep that site resource to keep it on program? So you need to sense check these things. Unfortunately, I just can't give you, there is no one size fits all. Some jobs might just need 2 lads on site, some just might need 3 lads on site, some might need 6 lads on site. You just can't really know, but you can check against it. You know, if they've got a team of 5 lads and dad and lad, they could probably run 2 sites slowly. If they've got 5 lads, dad and son, and the dad's probably more in the background and he's managing the procurement and things like that. So then you've got 5 lads on site. The son might be running around as site foreman, maybe picking up a few bits from Screwfix and stuff like that. Well, then they can probably bash out a HMO pretty quick, pretty competently. And if they've got 10 lads, they should be able to do 2 sites nice and competently. But 5 lads on one site, it depends how big the site is. If it's a smaller HMO, then 3 lads on site is probably better. Or do they just use subby trades? In which case, how good is their systems? Like, how good is their approach? How do they manage that process? So there's so many things you need to think about. So, but you can start with 2 easy questions. How big's their team and how many sites are they on currently? And then you can sense check against that. And then you can ask other people in the industry, ask other people who know, come and ask us, buy our HMO course, join our academy program. And you can ask people who know and they'll help you with a sense check. So that's hopefully some useful information on how to choose the contractor. And then there's the construction process itself, which is almost the most important part because you can do all the pre-construction stuff and get everything signed, get them signed up, get them wrapped up in a contract, get all your bill of quants and your schedule of works and your specification sheet sorted and your scope of works and everything else. Everything's done. But if you can't manage the construction process and you can't keep on top of it, then it'll all go to shit anyway. So you want to make sure you got a JCT contract from the start. You want to make sure that the payment plan, never, ever, 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 ever pay a contractor up front, ever. It's just not a good idea. Once you've built really good relationships with contractors, especially when you go onto bigger sites and things like that, there can be forward payments and things like that. But if you're doing smaller HMOs, then you just don't want to be paying up front. But what you can do is pay weekly. And that's what we do as a business. We charge weekly in arrears. Because what it does, and we learned this from the start when we weren't the contractor ourselves, is it keeps you on top of things. You can see things and quantify things more sensibly when they're weekly payments. The second you go to even just 2 weeks, if you've not got construction experience, you start to go, fucking hell, they're saying they've done like 15 grand's worth of joinery in 2 weeks. Like, is that a lot? I don't know. Is that a lot? Like, what's 15 grand's worth of joinery? What does that really mean? Like, how much is a piece of wood and how long does it take to plug it in? And then how long does it take? There's so many questions you could have, whereas when it's weekly, you should be able to quantify and check against prices. So if they've stripped out the property or something like that, you'll be able to go, yeah, fair enough. I mean, yeah, there are 3 lads there or whatever, and they're charging me 6 grand for it or whatever. Like, you should be able to check against things if you do them on a more frequent basis. The second you let that draw out and you're then doing a month drawdowns, on bigger sites, yes, you have to do that. But on these smaller sites, try and cash flow them weekly. I just think it's a better practice. And once you build that rapport and that relationship with the contractor over time, you could relax that a little bit. But we stick to weekly drawdowns. We think it's better for the client. They're getting more consistent updates and more clarity on what's being paid for. And then it's better for us in a way as well, because we're not carrying as many arrears for a long period. Because it works both ways. If the client doesn't pay us on time, we're already carrying a month's arrears, and then we're carrying another 2 weeks to not paying on time. That can be a massive issue for our cash flow. So the contractor equally has the cash flow pressures. And if you're a bad payer, you'll get pissed on. So make sure you're a good payer. Once you've got that bill from the contractor, just pay it as quick as you can. As long as you're satisfied, just pay it. Like, don't hold out for that duration of the payment terms. Well, it says 7-day payment terms, so I'm gonna pay on the 7th day. You can do that, but you just become a knob in the contractor's head. They just go, oh, yeah, well, that's them. They always pay right at the end of the payment terms. And remember, the contractor can choose who they work with. A good contractor doesn't have to work with you. They can work with whoever they want. So you wanna make sure that you're a good client to them, and you also hold them accountable so that they're a good contractor to you. Yeah, so pay in arrears. Always make sure you're paying them in arrears. Do not pay money up front. It's just stupid, especially at the start of a relationship with a contractor. You will get fucked. So do not pay up front. And then visit the site weekly as well. Like, even if you live 200 fucking miles away, make the effort, because it's well worth your time and money, to come up every week and visit the site. Visit the site every single week. There's no better way of doing it. Don't miss a week here and just go, yeah, I'm not gonna come up. It's different if you've got a project manager employed for you, that's different. Then they can do that for you, and you can maybe come up once a month, or you don't even have to come up that much as long as you're getting the sufficient information. But if you are project managing your site with that contractor, make sure you're coming up every single week, because problems and things like that can escalate really, really quickly if you're not on top of them. And if you're there every week as well, and they know habitually that you're there every week, they're gonna make sure they've got that site manned. They're gonna make sure that progress is staying on time and on track. So when you're there, take progress photos and videos and create progress reports for each week. And then you can share that with the contractor, show them what you're seeing, raise concerns if you see concerns. Don't be annoying, like on these smaller jobs, don't be really annoying and go, well, I noticed this, and then there's like, that's not quite done, and that's not this. Don't do that through the project, that's annoying. If there is reason for concern, and you go, I've seen that you put a steel in, but the steel's hanging on by about 2 millimeters on the brickwork, I'm slightly concerned. Yes, bring that kind of stuff up. If you see a major issue, then yes, make sure you bring it up. But don't get nitpicky on little things, because you'll piss off the contractor, and the contractor won't want to work with you again, or they'll just get annoyed with you. You have to keep that relationship healthy and smooth, and just be a cool client. Be a cool client, but don't ever let them take the piss out of you, because contractors will take the piss. It's a balance, it's a relationship. It's way more intense than like a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband or wife. Like, it is intense, a relationship with a contractor, because there's so much money on the line, and time and pressure and banks and interest building up if you're not finishing the job on time. So there's a lot of pressure, but you don't want to just throw that pressure onto the contractor, because they'll just get pissed off and they just won't do as good a job, or they'll rush things, which is even worse. That'll cost you even more money. And be there for all of the building control visits. If building control are coming to visit, which ties in with be CC'd in to all building control correspondence on email or phone calls or team meetings or whatever, make sure you are involved with all the building control updates, because building control are the regulatory body ensuring that that work is being done to a satisfactory and legal standard. So you want to make sure that you're involved with that process, and you're making sure that the contractor is not missing any of the non-compliance issues when building control come to visit. They'll come to visit, they'll do a plan check initially, they'll do a plan check to advise and make sure they're happy with the scheme, and you want to make sure you're involved in that process as well. Maybe your architect is too. Then they're set away, and then there'll be key stages of the process where building control want to come down and vet the works, like when the drainage is going in, or when you're fitting some steels in the roof, or when the wall build-ups are being done, and for the fire compliance and things like that. They want to spec everything and make sure that contractors doing everything above board and to regulatory standards. So it's well within your interest to make sure they're definitely doing that, because contractors can hide things, even from building control. So building control will advise, if they've got a good relationship with building control as well, it's even easier for them to hide things. So just make sure that you're involved in that whole process, and you can use the reports from each site visit from building control, which they'll issue to the contractor with you CC'd in. Make sure you're CC'd in, and you can then see if there's any outstanding non-compliance issues, and you can then go and check yourself to make sure that they're done. So did they fit the trickle vents on the window at the end of the project or something, or did they dig that hole deep enough or the trench deep enough for the drainage that they're meant to put in, and put the right dolomite in, and whatever. There's all these kind of things that you can just go and check when you're next on site with the contractor. Did you do this, or did you do that? Again, don't be annoying about it. You can check first, and if you see it's done, cool, it's done. And if you've got a question for the contractor, ask him the question. A contractor will appreciate your diligence. They'll appreciate that you're treating it professionally. So don't be afraid at all to poke your contractor and push them and make sure that they're doing a good job, but don't be annoying. There's a way of just being an annoying client. If you're an annoying client to a good contractor, you'll lose that relationship with a good contractor, and they are far and few between to find. So make sure you're a good client, and then your contractor should build a good relationship with you. Hey presto, you got a manufacturing facility to build development projects. And then be a good payer. It's just so fucking important. Just be a good payer. If you've got a good contractor doing a good job, then pay them good. And if you've got issues for whatever reasons with payments, let them know. Like, I just think it's better to work with your contractor on it. We did that with Jeff, who works with us now, when in the early days, and we were like, oh, fuck, we're gonna need more money for this. Bear in mind, we did do this through pandemic, and banks were freezing on us left, right, and center, and it was a crazy time to be in. But having that relationship with Jeff, open and transparent, we just say to him, look, I ain't got fucking money now, mate. Can you stomach it for the next 2 weeks? And he'll go, aye, son, I can stomach it for the next 2 weeks, all right, but fucking hell, make sure you pay me at the end of 2 weeks. And then we always made sure we paid him, and then we always tried to make sure we paid as quick as we could, and we built a great relationship with him. Now we've built a construction business as well, and he's still our site manager, and lovely stuff, hey presto. That relationship is so important. He had our back, so we made sure we had his back. We always made sure we pay, but try and always pay as quick as you can. And then a 6-month maintenance clause. You want to make sure you've got a 6-month maintenance clause on the back end for a smaller scheme. On bigger schemes, you can have 12 months, you can have other things and warranties and stuff like that. But for these kind of schemes, HMOs, you want to make sure for the 6 months, once it's finished, there's a liability on the contractor to make sure they're coming back to fix any maintenance issues if they are construction related. If a tenant has damaged something, that is not their problem. But if there's some issue inherently because of the building and the quality of the build, then you want to make sure that you've got a 6-month maintenance clause in there for them to come back and fix it at their cost. And you can have retentions and things like that as well around that, but ultimately if you try and impose retentions on contractors, they just add that retention to the bill inherently, so you just keep paying more. But it depends. It depends how you feel about it. There's many ways you can tie things, many ways you can do things. This is more of a high level on the just sense checking on the things that you need to do to make sure that you've got a healthy relationship with your contractor, find the right contractor, build a good relationship with the contractor, which is just so important. Build a good relationship. You shouldn't just see it as a professional endeavor. It's not just a contractor. Wrap that contractor up and make sure they do that job for you at the right price, on time, on budget, or they're getting penalties and shit like that. If you hold your contractor to contempt, you will not build a good relationship. And you need a good relationship with the contractor as a developer because they are the manufacturing facility. They are building your wealth and your portfolio. So make sure you pay them on time, do a good job, do the heavy lifting your side to give them the right information, and then they will do a good job in return. You own the asset long term. You're the one making all the money in the long term as well. Happy days. That's it on contractors. I hope this video has been useful. Let me know in the comments if you got anything to add to this video. This is very high level. There's many more things we could dive into, but hopefully it's given you some good insights. Lovely stuff. Subscribe. See you in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.